Marami nagtatanong sa atin, kamusta ba si iPhone? Maganda ba si iPhone 14? Okay ba mag-upgrade to iPhone 14? Well, unfortunately, hindi natin masasagot yan kanina because today we got the new iPhone 14 Pro Max. Napatingin pa talaga ako kasi naisip ko kung magkano to yung budget na ginastos natin. But yeah, this is the iPhone 14 Pro Max and we've just unboxed it, we tested it. And ngayon, i-discuss ko sa inyo ano ba ma-expect natin sa iPhone 14 and kung okay nga ba kumuha ng iPhone 14 as your next phone, as your upgrade para sa previous iPhone mo or sa mga previous Android smartphone mo. So tara, unbox natin. Unbox natin. Tara, i-hands-on natin and alamin natin kung okay nga ba si iPhone 14 Pro Max. Ayan, so we got here the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Like what I've said before, kanina, na-unbox na natin siya. So basically, it is pretty much the same as the other iPhone boxes na meron tayo sa loob. Of course, we got here the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And sa loob, not much to see in here. Aside dito sa ating manual, the sticker, and of course, the USB-C to Lightning cord. Not exciting, right? So, dito na tayo kagad sa iPhone 14 Pro Max. So, as you can see in here, we haven't set it up and everything. This is really fresh. Kakalagin pa lang natin. Hindi pa nga tayo nakakonect sa ating Apple ID and everything. But yeah, we got here the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I am coming from an iPhone 13. If you're gonna ask me, if galing kayo sa iPhone 13, just don't get this one, okay? Just don't get the iPhone 14 series because your smartphone is probably almost the same as this one except for the dynamic island, the processing power that you won't probably notice pagdating sa kanyang difference. As for the display, yes, it is really good. It's different lang kasi nga we got here the dynamic island. If you look at it closely, ayan, if you're not sure, I'm not sure if you could see that, makikita nyo talaga na meron tayong gap dito sa loob na maliit. It's actually the sensors over here for the Face ID and of course the selfie camera. Dito naman sa likod, papansin nyo na mas makapal yung ating camera dito sa likod. The protruding camera, we got here the 48 megapixel main camera. And yes, napakaganda nung shots or ng quality na nakuha ko dito sa mga early shots ko dito na dun lang sa store and dito lang sa bahay. Sobrang na-amaze ako. But yeah, looking at it, pag tinignan nyo yung ganito, hindi nyo naman nakakalain eh. It's either the iPhone 13 or the iPhone 14. Pwede nyo akalain na iPhone 12 siya eh. Based dun sa color niya, kasi nga gold lang naman to eh. Which is present naman sa other generations ng ating iPhone. Of course, on the sides, we got here the stainless steel. And look at that. That is the always on display. Kita nyo ba yung always on display? This is the always on display. You will be amazed na, okay, ganito na yung display niya kahit nakapatay tayo. Meron tayong nakikita na time, meron tayong nakikitang color, it's full screen. So, ibig sabihin nito, hindi nyo na kailangan pindutin yung smartphone nyo para makita nyo yung oras or probably even the notification sometimes kasi it's an always on display. So, finally, it has arrived on iPhones which is a really nice feature. And gusto ko yung execution nila dito na full screen yung ating always on display. For some smartphones, ang always on display nila ay nandun lang sa side. For example, I got here the OnePlus 10T. Yung kanyang always on display is ito lang, not full screen. This one, full screen kasama yung kanyang wallpaper. Nakita nyo na kanina dito yung power button, on the other side, volume rocker, and of course, yung switch natin to vibrate and loud mode, the SIM card tray. Dito sa Pilipinas, meron pa rin tayong SIM card tray. Below is the lightning port connector along with the speaker grill. The problem with that is that it's still lightning. Hindi pa tayo nagkakameron ng USB-C na iPhone officially kasi may mga gumagawa ng mods pero that's very rare. So yeah, this is the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Ang kulang lang talaga sa akin dito is the USB-C port. But the rest, I'm actually pretty fine with it. The lightning connector is really slow pa din compared to USB-C. Now, gusto ko makita nyo yung iOS. Nakita nyo naman na super smooth sa mga hindi pa nakagamit ang iOS before or not convinced sa iOS. You could actually test it out doon sa mga stores like Beyond the Box. And makikita nyo naman na super smooth tayo dito. The difference between other smartphones and iPhone 14 Pro Max or the other iPhones with 120Hz display is that the execution nila doon sa software is super smooth. I actually like the experience of this one na mas responsive for every touch dito compared sa other smartphones with 120Hz display. I believe yung parang kayang tumapat na experiential base pagdating sa kanya animation and everything is Samsung. The latest update I believe is One UI 5 Beta, and okay ako dun sa response niya, and even the OnePlus. Gusto ko yung response niya sa touchscreen display. Other smartphones doesn't have the same experience kahit na 120Hz display nila, kahit na flagship smartphone nila. So I applaud iPhone for that one. As for the dynamic island, well, I am not really a fan of that. So makikita nyo, ayan sa taas, not really a fan of that. So try natin magpa-on ng dynamic island. So the best way to test the dynamic island is to open the clock application, set a timer. So nakikita nyo, nag-start na siya. And then, swipe it like that. Nakikita nyo, nag-swipe na siya papunta doon sa taas. That is a really cool feature. Some might argue na, okay, dynamic island is useless. Dynamic island is just a gimmick. I believe that's true for some people, but for some people, they might find it useful. Aesthetically, this is excellent as they were able to maximize the punch hole dito sa taas. That is a great way para ma-maximize nyo yung kanyang punch hole sa taas na parang ang ugly tignan. And by pressing that one, babalik tayo sa clock application. And nakita nyo naman, ang ganda nung pasok nung ating timer application papunta doon sa dynamic island. Of course, hindi lang to yung mga application na nagsusupport ng dynamic island. Marami pa tayo nito. Another favorite ko na application that supports the dynamic island is this one. So FaceTime, makikita nyo on yung ating front-facing camera, naka-blurred lang of course, but we do got here the green doon sa taas. The green dot display represents that the smartphone is actually naka-on yung kanyang camera. Pwede siya mag-record ng camera, ng video or whatever, pero this is for the privacy settings. But this is really nice feature pagdating dito sa ating dynamic island. And of course, nakikita nyo naman ngayon na lower yung brightness natin, but the higher yung brightness, ang ganda ng display natin. Sobrang liwanag. Definitely one of the best na displays that we got here on a smartphone. And of course, makikita nyo naman na flat display siya, not a large display na may curves sa sides. This is perfect for me for iPhone, whether that's for gaming or for normal usage. The dynamic island is a nice additional dito na feature sa ating iPhone 14 Pro Max, but it isn't something na, you know, bibilhin nyo kasi may dynamic island. I don't believe that's a good idea. Now, let's go to the verdict dito sa iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now, onto the verdict. Alam natin na okay si iPhone. Sa mga hindi iPhone fans dyan, I would understand. Some of you might argue na, okay, very expensive si iPhone. I also understand that. But if you're into iOS, if you're something talaga sa iOS or Apple ecosystem, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is a great smartphone for you. It is powerful. The camera is really great. I like the shots na nakuha natin dito sa iPhone 14 Pro Max, whether that's the selfie or the rear camera. Hindi ko pa natatry masyado, kakakuha ko lang siya kanina, but it's really, really great. The display is something na ma-appreciate nyo. However, the dynamic island might be useful for some people, pero it's not a feature na dapat nyo kagad lipatan or maging reason para kumuha kayo ng iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now, to the question na, dapat ba ako kumuha ng iPhone 14 Pro or the Pro Max? Masasagot lang natin yan, depende sa smartphone na ginagamit nyo. If you're coming from an Android smartphone, the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max is a great smartphone to begin with sa isang iOS device. It is the best iPhone na makikita natin ngayon. And as for the iPhone users, well, if you're coming from iPhone 11 and below, well, depende yan sa magiging usage nyo. I believe the iPhone 11 is still a great smartphone until now, but if you want a better features, a longer battery life, a better display, and of course, yung kanyang camera, dun nyo talaga mararamdaman yung difference sa iPhone 14. And of course, sa mga gusto na ng, you know, matagal na naglalong ng bagong flat design sa kanilang phones, well, if you're coming from an iPhone 14 and iPhone 11 and below, doon na yung my experiences sa iPhone 14, which is a great smartphone. Again, optimized, polish, and everything. If you're coming from an iPhone 12, I know your smartphone is still great on the iPhone 12 and 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max, whether, I believe, kahit ano pang iPhone 12 nyo. But, you're still getting here a better features, a better camera, it's a faster response. If you're working always on your smartphone, doon yung ma-appreciate si iPhone 14 Pro Max. And if you're into speed talaga, doon yung mapapansin na okay, mas mabilis talaga itong si iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max. As for the camera, doon talaga, ramdam na ramdam nyo rin yung difference, just like the iPhone 11 pagdating doon sa camera, kasi mas maganda yung rear camera natin dito sa iPhone 14 Pro and the Pro Max. However, if you're coming from an iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, I highly suggest that huwag kayo bumili. don't get the iPhone 14 Pro or the Pro Max, especially the iPhone 14 series, as we got here the same processor. The camera is almost the same, but for the Pro series sa 14 Pro Max, dun yung mararamdaman yung kanilang difference talaga yung camera niya. And of course, the always-on display. I believe the always-on display is a really underrated feature ng smartphone. And look at that! It's an always-on display. Mukha siyang laging naka-on. This is actually the best implementation ng always-on display na nakita ko sa isang smartphone. So I really suggest na if you're into always-on display, get the iPhone 14, the 14 Pro and the 14 Pro Max. But again, if naka-13 na kayo, just wait for the iPhone 15. We might probably get a USB-C on that one, or some other useful features na medyo malaki na yung difference. But yeah, the iPhone 13 Pro and the Pro Max are still great smartphones even this year, 2022, and even for the first up to the third quarter of 2023. Maybe sa iPhone 15, doon natin mararamdaman yung difference. So yeah, I guess that's it dito sa ating dito sa ating hands-on, and of course, a quick review ng iPhone 14 Pro Max. Is really nice camera, really nice features, dynamic island, the display, the camera, everything. It's really, really good. So if you're gonna buy one, I believe medyo mahirapan pa kayo as of this recording, pero if you're later 2022, baka pag December, medyo marami-rami na yun sila. So I guess that's it dito sa ating unboxing. Again, not unboxing. Hands-on, and ating first impressions sa iPhone 14 Pro Max. So if you like this video, or if you want this video, please give us a thumbs up. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and be sure to click that subscribe button along with that bell button to get notified of our latest videos here dito sa aking YouTube channel. So once again, I am JumpOnline.ph. Thank you for watching and see you guys again sa susunod na video.